Hello and welcome back to On the Brink. I'm Nick Carter. Today we're sitting down with Jared Nusinoff, the founder and CEO of Mash, a Lightning-based payments layer for content monetization on the internet. Jared has a fascinating story taking us from Google to running an adventure guide company to now building on Lightning. Mash is a company dedicated to remonetizing the internet and providing an alternative to subscription or bundle-based models or affiliate models or internet ad models. And Mash proposes an alternative where end users get much more discretion and control over how they're paying for content, and creators are able to monetize content that was previously completely unmonetized, what Jared calls the missing middle of internet content. Full disclosure, Castle Island is an investor in Mash. In our view, it's completely in line with how the internet should be developing, and it leverages Lightning in a way that uses its unique properties to provide genuinely novel experiences online. Suffice to say, I'm pretty excited about it. Let's dive right into the episode with Jared Nusinoff.
Brought down by bad mortgage investments, Lehman, which has 25,000 employees, will be liquidated.
The federal government loans American International Group, AIG, $85 billion.
This is a different kind of market, and the Fed is asleep.
The federal government is stepping in to stabilize Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the two mortgage giants that have been threatened by the housing crisis.
The Bank of England has pumped £75 billion more into Britain's ailing economy with a new round of quantitative easing.
You print a couple $2 trillion, and all of a sudden people start to worry. So out of this worry, we have something called the Bitcoin.
Welcome to On the Brink. Today we're sitting down with Jared Nusinoff, founder of Mash, which is here to fix the way content is monetized on the internet. Is that fair to say? Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nick. It's great to be here.
So this is your first podcast, is that correct?
This is my first podcast, yes.
Sometimes I forget that not everyone in Bitcoin is on the podcast circuit, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, I have, I've tweeted about 50 or 100 times, so I'm getting there.
So the first podcast I did was with Marty Bent. Great podcast. And I really had a aversion to podcasts. I didn't want to do them. And he convinced me. He bribed me. He said he would buy me a 6-pack of Coors Light if I did it. Then we drank the Coors Light on the show. And on that episode, I said I would never do another podcast. I would just do one. And then I did 300 more. So I really defaulted on that promise. So maybe this is the first of 300 for you. That's what I'm saying.
It could be.
So I want to talk about Mash, of course, but before that, tell me about your background. You have a pretty interesting story, so let's hear it.
Sure. So I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I'd sort of categorize my experiences in life in sort of two buckets. One is adventure travel. So I was a canoe trip guide, led people on trips to the wilderness by canoe through rivers and lakes. I still do that every year. Drive 15 hours, take a couple flights, paddle a couple 100 kilometers with a group of friends. And before starting Mash, I founded and ran an adventure travel company in Central Eastern Canada. So adventure road trips, 26 days long, which was an awesome experience. I was the first tour guide and bus driver for that company. And the other, the other part of my background would be, technologist, entrepreneur, product person. And so I started my career at Bain & Company. I was also the person, selling burn CDs, underground burn CDs in junior high and things online in the late 90s. Was at Google for 7.5 years, part of it on the strategy side. Did a bunch of computer science classes at Stanford to build up some more technical chops, and led location, display ads for a few years. And then was on the product side, the head of mobile apps for Google Fiber. And then it was the adventure travel company. And now I'm at Mash, and we've been, building for 7 or so months.
So I have a lot of questions about what you just said. So what was the most popular underground CD that you sold in I guess middle school or high school? Middle school.
Middle school. It was I got access to a lot of underground Tupac. So unreleased Tupac. I need to think if it was Are You Still Down before it was released, with lots of interesting mixes. And I swear I had 1,000 plus songs at one point from like different FTP servers. They're long gone on a hard drive in that garbage dump that I'm looking for still.
So it's your version of the Welsh Bitcoin wallet that's in the landfill somewhere, but with deep cuts from Tupac.
Exactly. I don't know what's more valuable though.
So, what did you sell them for? Was it like $1 a CD?
I think it was $20.
What?
15,
that
10,
seems
20.
Extortionate. How rare were these tracks? I mean, do they exist? Or is it like the Wu-Tang Clan album where only one copy exists?
They weren't in HMV yet. I'd put it that way.
I don't even know what HMV is.
Oh, it's probably
What's
Canadian. I think it's like a Canadian CD record store from back then that does not exist. I didn't put it together that that was not a North American or international brand until, nor have I said HMV probably in 10 years.
I couldn't even name a brand pertaining to CDs. I don't know if I ever bought one in a store. That's interesting. And so did you obtain them through torrenting or did you know someone at the record label?
I thought it was so my memory, this is what, 23 years ago or something. It was some it's probably IRC channels, FTP servers. I can't even remember the clients I was using.
Was this before torrents? This is before torrents existed?
Yes.
Wow, I didn't even know there was music sharing before like LimeWire.
You know what? Maybe I don't want to say it was before torrents because I'm not sure when that started. But it wasn't through torrents.
Wow,
clarify.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So this is pre-BitTorrent P2P music sharing.
Yes. There was definitely a lot going on in those servers beyond this.
That's like the equivalent of being into crypto like before Bitcoin existed almost. I mean, I genuinely thought that peer-to-peer like file sharing began with your BitTorrent, so your torrenting clients, but I guess there was something before that.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm trying to, I'm not an expert on the history of peer-to-peer, but I'll say that I was part of that crew, pre-BitTorrent peer-to-peer.
Wow. So your peer-to-peer credentials go deep. See, I learn something new every time I do an episode of this podcast. Wow, that's really cool. And how did you what was the transition from Google to being founding an adventure guide company? Like, what was the reasoning there?
So I was looking for something that I thought would provide positive value to people's life and experiences that I really want to do. Because I'd spent my time at Google doing a lot of, location tracking and targeting, sort of in some ways funding disinformation through the sites where the ads were shown. Well, it wasn't my intention. I came to realize that. And then it was also, how do I help people more easily and conveniently watch TV? And I had traveled, I'd lived in California for 5 years, went to New Zealand on a 6-week break before moving back to Toronto with Google. And it was actually my first sort of group tour that I thought was really awesome. It was in New Zealand with a company called Stray Travel. And it was like a hop-on, hop-off bus trip. It wasn't super expensive. They did lots of really cool things. Now, it wasn't exactly what I would want to do. Like I've, some of my trips, it's like taking trains throughout China in like 2009 maybe, without a cell phone, just figuring it out and going. But it struck a balance with the time restriction, even though 6 weeks for a lot of people seems like a wild amount of time to travel. And what I saw, New Zealand's beautiful. They had 500,000 youth travelers there. per year, spending over 2 weeks. And I knew a lot about Central Eastern Canada, not a ton. I'd only traveled parts of it, but arguably more beautiful, more cultural diversity, and some amazing experiences that there was no infrastructure for and no way to really enjoy it. And so I sort of, put the two together and said, oh, you can create the infrastructure for it, provide people an amazing experience in some of the most, one of the wildest countries in the world. So I sort of set out on that mission, knowing it was a bootstrap business. I had saved my money to start something for, throughout my career. And I also thought it'd be fun. Creating a software product is just like creating a real world product. Show people an amazing experience that they absolutely love, and it should work as long as, regulatory and other things don't get in the way.
Did you ever see that film? I think it came out maybe 2 years ago, called The Alpinist, about Mark Leclerc.
I haven't seen it.
He's one of your countrymen. Everyone's seen Free Solo, which is about, Alex Honnold free soloing all these granite faces. But The Alpinist, Mark basically free solos ice faces, or mixed rock and ice. Anyway, figured I'd mention it, given the Canadian connection. I have to ask, what was the most touch and go situation you've been in as a guide in the wilderness?
In the wilderness?
Yeah, what grizzly encounters or floods or...
So we have, we don't have grizzlies like in Ontario and Quebec, where most of my paddling happens. But when I was guiding like those types of trips, I woke up to you take a cabin out on a bunch of days. And one morning I actually woke up to the other counselor. I said, effectively, she was punching me to wake up, that there was a bear poking its head into our tent, and then actually right beside a tent full of, I think it was 11-year-old girls. So we had to jump out, make crazy noise, pretend it was a bear fire drill, and chase, these you chase away. You just make as much noise and try and scare them. So it's fine. But it wasn't the nicest wake up I've ever had.
What kind of bear? Black bear?
Yeah, black bear.
Their black bears can still be pretty dangerous, right?
Yeah, but they're more scared of you than you are of them.
Right.
The real thing is you make noise, be in a group. It's different than grizzlies. The only time I've heard of you have the story that you tell people to not keep food in their tents with black bears is, you tell the story of the kid who got bit in the ass by a bear through the tent wall because they had chewing gum.
Really?
In their back pocket. I think it's real. It's so long ago that it could be, one of those folklore stories, but you still tell it.
Apocryphal Canadian wilderness folklore. Love it. So what caused you to abandon your idyllic, wilderness adventures and then return to the world of software? What was the motivation?
There were a few things. One is, it was scaling and doing well, but, when I saw the pandemic happening and how it's a difficult business, it's a slog. You sort of need a network of people to continuously tell people that are traveling in the country or working here to go do it. And the regulatory environment was very difficult in terms of multiple provinces. It was getting, really challenging. They've effectively in Canada shut down this type of travel, which is the best way to experience the country. So there's that side of it. And the other side is in my downtime, knowing that my, business that I've been slogging away for 2 years has effectively imploded. That I had heard about Bitcoin a few times, and I was reading just absorbing as much as I could to figure out what to do next. And, my friend just said, read the Bitcoin Standard and then talk to me. And so 3 days later or 2 days later, I was done that, started researching what the Lightning Network was and everything in the space. And that was it. Once I saw what Lightning did with sound money, I think a lot of people have had this experiences, you can imagine so many amazing new things and improvements to the world not just from like preventing central bank debasement of our currency and like hidden taxation, but also in terms of fixing a lot of the problems I saw in my experience online with how things are monetized. And it was a lightning rod to my brain.
This episode is brought to you by Compass Mining. Compass Mining is the world's first and largest online marketplace for Bitcoin mining hardware, hosting, and ASIC reselling. Bitcoin mining is only getting bigger, and so is Compass Mining. Compass is adding 280 megawatts worth of hosting capacity next year, with more to come. That's over 6 times Compass's current hosting capacity, meaning more people can mine Bitcoin. With Compass, anyone can mine Bitcoin. Start mining your own Bitcoin by visiting compassmining.io today. So I want to get into the problems with monetization, but before that, I was reflecting on this today. I think a lot of critiques of Bitcoin are grounded in people have these very fixed taxonomies of what they sort of think money is or ought to be, and then they evaluate Bitcoin on that basis, and it doesn't really neatly fit into the taxonomy, doesn't fit into the categories, or it's ill-fitting for their defined, chosen category for what they think what money is or what it should be. With the classic example being the medium of exchange. People think transactions should be free, maybe, and instant and cheap because they're thinking about cash, and so they evaluate Bitcoin on that basis, and then it seems to, fail the test. So, long-winded way of asking, what do you make of the medium of exchange, store value sort of distinction, and do you think of them as distinct? Do you think of Bitcoin as fitting neatly into one of them? How do you think about that?
As humans, we live and think in a short time frame, and when I look at Bitcoin, there's narratives around it. We talk about it as a store of value, as digital gold, and like you said, medium of exchange, and then maybe unit of account. And I consider it, the most pristine monetary asset that is conceivable and real and likely could ever exist, just from its conception and its story. And it's just going through a monetization phase that's reliant on education around the world on the importance of this. And then you don't have to wait for that to happen to enable it to be a medium of exchange. And that's what's happening right now with what Lightning does and the superpowers it gives to Bitcoin. And so, there's some people who would say, oh, there's volatility on it. Why would people want to have that? Or don't they just want to save it? And why would they spend it if they believe this? I believe that there's another world where you can have, and anyone can have, this special digitally native money to use how they want for purchases that make sense for the powers that Lightning gives. And so when I think of like instant, programmable, sendable in any amount at low cost purchases, it's not, I want to go buy a Tesla with Bitcoin. That doesn't, take advantage of that value compared to other things. It's all these new things that are a little bit different. And I can jump into those, but I don't want to jump too far ahead to what Mash is about.
Yeah, so I keep jumping around too, but so in terms of realizing the way that content monetization is broken on the internet, I think a lot of people align with this idea now. Did this realization emerge from work you'd done at Google, or was it an outgrowth of some of those realizations you had when you were there?
It was an outgrowth from time at Google and an outgrowth from lots of other experiences. So when I was working in location for display ads, you would see the types of sites that had these ads on them and the quality of those experiences. And you could understand why, how many millions of views do they need to get to earn anything? Then there's just myself as, I don't want to call myself like a researcher, or if I'm going to buy something or do something, I'm going to find every resource that there is to try and do it the best way possible. Like, what's the best camera? What's the best way to cook a soup? It doesn't matter. I'm just going to do it. And you can see the result of If you follow the incentives, you can understand the result of why all those pages are. Like, why is every single review site scraped content written by AI that just links you to Amazon? That's how they make money. It's no other way. Quality is not rewarded. So the search costs for actually finding things that are quality is very difficult. The other side is, I should go back to my is with apps and episodic experiences. And so when Laser Eyes was happening on Twitter, for those who aren't familiar, it's you take your profile photo and you put on some lasers, and there's lots of different interpretations of what that means. It was like, why can't I just find an app, give them a little bit of money, and actually have an amazing Laser Eyes profile picture? I spent like 30 minutes trying to find one. I downloaded like 3 different like art apps to finally get I think it was like lightsabers that I just moved around to make them work. It's because, it would take a developer, a UXer, like a couple days to make something really amazing. That performed the job, and they could probably make a couple $1,000,000 if they had Lightning embedded on their experience, if you could pay in the right amount. Instead, it's all subscribe to this, buy it for $20. There's this middle ground of experiences that don't, that shouldn't require a huge commitment to make. And, I sort of saw all that together of, how are things being monetized right now? And it's not based on the value they provide. And then combining that with how could you pay for these experiences, which is the other side. And large upfront purchase, big commitment. And there was nothing in the middle, and sort of tied that back together through all those experiences.
So in terms of internet monetization, we have free plus ads, or sort of affiliate models, and then you have bundles and subscriptions. But what you're saying is there's some missing middle there. There's maybe transient experiences, which you may not use with frequency to justify a subscription, but things that ought to exist and should be monetized, but maybe ads aren't suitable for it, and there's no easy way to pay $2 to the creator of a widget. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's a really good summary. And there's also additional effects to this. So one is, if you're relying on ads or affiliate models, you need millions of users or a very high valued niche to earn anything. And so lots of things can't be created there. And the other side is, when you're trying to sell something at a high price or a subscription amount, you need to have a certain, how complex is your SaaS app? Like, it needs to be a full blown out app that's frequently used. Or if you want to sell a guide to something or a book, how much pre-sale do you have to have? How much trust do people need to have that this is actually going to be good, when they also can't trust the reviews that are coming out online? And so, a lot of this that's online is filled with misinformation and sort of not deception, but like overselling and overinvesting in the get you to buy, rather than all of the energy on the quality of what you're actually getting. And so that's what happens in this space of, like a barrier and reliance of value somewhere else.
So how does the actual technology of payment processing or methods of payment on the internet play into all this? Because I think that's, we have obviously digital payments, but there's holes there. How does that play into this?
Yeah, so I think there's a few things. One is, I'm going to talk about interoperability, and the money that exists online right now, the way to make payments for things is not interoperable. It's from this this card to another place one time, and then you can't really, you can't pay small amounts, you can't store it there and transfer it elsewhere. So the closest thing we have to, money that you can send in any amount anywhere is sort of within these closed systems, like certain games with their own, you buy a bundle of coins and you spend them, but it's not real money. It's stuck there. It doesn't really have any value beyond what you're getting within that experience. And so that's the closest thing, is you still have to buy a bundle and you can use it, but you can't get to a space where I want to load up $20 into this digital bundle of just money that I can use anywhere in any amount. That's what Lightning does. So how can you have this wallet, or how can you make a payment of a penny here? I'm not saying this is the right thing for a business model per se, but just without issue of just sending little bits of money wherever you want, whenever you want. And that's not possible right now online. And that's led to, in many ways, bundled platforms rather than, disaggregating them as well.
At the same time, and it is incredible to me that we don't have internet native payments. I mean, it seems like that would have been such a core piece of fundamental internet infrastructure that somehow just didn't get built alongside the internet. It's kind of astonishing, really. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe. So with credit cards, I mean, the fact that these payments are not interoperable and they're not final, strictly speaking, does that directly have an influence on the nature of content delivery online?
100%. Right now, payments with credit cards, they have a minimal amount. They are fairly expensive. They're not, they're getting better internationally, but they're not global. There's lots of restrictions on who can accept payments. And what this does is it forces that one-time purchase for specific content that they accept. If you look at all of the payment processors online, look at their terms and what you're allowed to buy and pay for. So there is also a censorship angle on top of this. But, and if I look at, what would you want in digitally native money? Sendable in any amount, instant, programmable, no trust involved, trust minimized, private, global, fully interoperable, not locked in anywhere, and no cost. Those are the properties that I would look for. And with current payment rails, you either have closed system, controlled and censor system, high amount minimum, high fees, a long time to settle, chargebacks with huge costs, not really global, and the list goes on. And so if you extend that further and say, okay, what do these new properties of money, if you had them, let you unlock? Okay, instead of buying that full, video tutorial or that full masterclass or that full, app, I want to use it on a usage basis. Fine, I'll get the first X minutes for free, X articles for free, and then I'll contribute as I'm going. And now, okay, I'm not committing up front. I'm not worried about the pre-sale. I'm focused on the quality of that experience. And that's one of examples. I'm keeping them generalized for now, but you can see a world where that, if you could monetize that way instead of ads, or at least monetize something at all because subscriptions didn't fit for it, then you can reinvest in all these experiences. And I like to say, good quality will squeeze out the bad when you have these payment rails fixed.
So when you were starting MASH, did you think to yourself, okay, we need to fix content monetization on the internet? What's the best medium of payment for me to do that? Or did you think to yourself, well, Lightning is really great. Let's see what problems it solves and how I can use it?
I wouldn't say it was explicitly linear. When I looked at what Lightning did in the properties of what it was, it naturally mapped, I thought through a lot of different use cases and products and experiences you can build, but it kept on mapping back to what is the biggest problem online today. And it's the monetization or business models available for quality content and experiences and tools and apps and games. And this was a tool to fix that. It's, right now we live in a world of lack of trust in quality and disinformation in these experiences. And if you can fix sort of how money's transferred and, what people are calling value for value today, you can amplify what's good by giving them what they actually have earned, their proper fair value. And so, we could have gone and targeted, I think, a more, I think maybe a smaller problem, but it wouldn't be nearly as exciting and I think impactful as this larger problem.
And so as a business that's building with or on Lightning, I think a lot of people have felt the Lightning has lost momentum, even though the metrics are actually pretty good in the last 12 months or so. What is your view as someone that sort of deals with Lightning every day in terms of its maturity and whether it's fit to be built on as of today?
So the way I describe it is the backbone, like the protocols and the services on Lightning right now are maturing and in many places mature and they work. And so from protocols, that are available like LND, LDK, C Lightning, like Eclair, the base layer works. You want to get Lightning up and running as a business. There's multiple service layers that can help you do it. You can buy your own server farms that are pre-built to do it. You can go on to different clouds, cloud services that can manage it for you. Okay, now you want to take Lightning and the software and take it to the actual network and make it work. Okay, there's all these, liquidity service providers and ways to set up channels, and it's fairly, set up. That just works. The network is usable. The successes in routing of payments across the entire network is getting better and better and larger larger in terms of the payment sizes that can be processed, including latency and privacy improvement. And so, but at the same time, and if you extend that further, you want to make one-time payments in a variety of ways. It also works. And so you're seeing lots of use cases of sending money to a friend, pay for a coffee in El Salvador, send it through an email, that works, or a one-click to pay experience. But there's a few things missing, which is, you could say, opportunity for people to build on, because it's the early innings of the future money layer for the internet, right? It's, everything doesn't get built in a day, but we're on the right path. And so how do you drive usage up? Like right now we're in a world of, I'd say, passionate Bitcoiners, developers who are experimenting on it, and people building things like what I'm building in a variety of different spaces. And once it becomes easy for the regular person to use it in a variety of ways and new use cases, that was what will drive adoption. The tech is ready. Some areas need hardening, but I don't see that the issue. And so, what are the key things you want? It's, how does a regular it depends on the use cases and where you want to build. I'll just start with that. But how does a consumer get a wallet and get money on Lightning in a few clicks easily without having to understand cryptography or Bitcoin? While you want to, philosophically, you probably want to teach them about it, but that's just, how do you get them on the service? 2, how do you get that wallet and their funds available where they want it? 3, how do you facilitate and connect it to these experiences and make it seamless and simple without a cognitive load? And then 4 is, how do you take that and interweave it into apps, websites, sites, content experiences everywhere? And so, to summarize that, which I probably should have led with, which is the interconnection of onboarding a user through a payment facilitation anywhere in these new user experiences, that sort of that layer, that application layer, is being built out now, and that's where we're focused.
And so what's Mash going to look like from a user perspective? What's it going to be like browsing the internet with Mash enabled?
So let's say you have something you want to sell online. I'm going to start on that side. You decide you want to work with Mash to help you monetize a new way, which is usage-based pricing for any amount, streaming money effectively. And there would be a wallet integrated right into the experience. No download. It'd be right there, right on the site. And now a consumer, when they want to actually start paying for something, if they already have a Mash wallet set up, they can just start engaging. They don't have to do anything. If they don't, they log in, they sign up, they buy an account, they get Bitcoin back as a bonus, and they can use that there. And then what's the rest of the consumer experience? Because we see it as, for them, the core value is supporting and getting access to these awesome pieces of content, tools, and experiences that make sense for them, that they want. But then it's, okay, I don't want my money trapped there. I want to be able to use it however I want. Oh, I want to go pay for a Shopify store that has stuff, because lots of Shopify stores now can accept Bitcoin. Okay, you can pay there. Oh, I want to send it to an exchange. No problem. I want to, store it in my Bitcoin cold storage. Not a problem. You want to go use other Lightning stores that don't have Mash set up. You can also do that. So you want to send it to friends. You can also do that. So it's how do we let them do all these awesome things, but the core is how do you facilitate that relationship of value for value between someone who's creating a tool, product, experience for them that they can now contribute for, and make it easy on both sides and facilitate the relationship.
And I guess this just opens up the scope for much more creativity in terms of monetizing internet services, whether it's metered consumption or deferred metering per whatever variable you want to define consumption, just models that were just not available before.
Yeah, these are completely new business models that I see as disruptive to most things online today. So I'll give you an example that will be later, but it's not immediately. So just because it's topical, because I like UFC. There was a fight on Saturday night, and you go at 2 a.m. Eastern time, because that's where I am, and there's these live broadcast streams of people talking about the fights, breaking them down. And even before them, they have their picks, and it's sponsored by insert gambling company. And do you trust their picks, or is it because they're picking someone because there's too much money on one side or the other? But anyways, you have hundreds of thousands of people just for this sub niche going online just to watch them. And how much money do they get? $50. That doesn't make any sense. People are staying up. They're exhausted the next day just to watch this. Imagine a world where that person can say, hey, you know what? My stuff is $3 an hour. First 10 minutes is free. You have 10 free premium minutes. You're going to pay every minute. There's no upfront charge. If you don't like it, stop watching, stop paying. And as a consumer, you can say, yeah, but I don't want to spend more than $5 ever at this person, then ask me again. Okay, set a budget. And I want to know how much I'm going to spend in total. I don't want to be worried about, falling asleep and watching this forever if I didn't set a budget. Oh, after I spend $6, all the content's available for free from my site. And now this person who created this thing, they can own it. They can host it wherever they want. They can charge it their own business model, and the consumer can now pay and contribute. And you've now created a flywheel for that person who built something. They can hire editors. They can bring in more guests. They can just do a lot more. And for most of them, they can leave their full-time job and dedicate their time to this, which was everyone is, you have hundreds of thousands, millions of people listening to them too. And so you don't require, just a fan to tip you. You can turn into a paid for premium experience.
This strikes me as disruptive in not just sort of the cliched sense of the term, but genuinely disruptive to the way content and media is delivered online. Do you have a specific model of delivery or type of content which you think this most dramatically alters once these modes of transactions are normalized? My mind immediately goes to paywalled journalism content, which people are chafing at. But is there something in particular you think, once the MASH model is established, totally disrupts the way things work online?
When I think of where we're focused first, or where I think there's the first natural fit, it is in these mini apps, these tools. I almost think these websites that provide value, sort of like that Lightning avatar generator tool, that are episodic and value add for people. And then yes, 100% for content online, but not, articles, but not the, New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, because their business model makes sense as a prepay. They have a huge bundle of content that's trusted, high quality, and frequently used. So we always focus on what doesn't have, that immediate trust that might make someone concerned to pay for it immediately, or does have it, but people don't want to frequently use it. And so we look at these mini apps and tools, almost like if you look at a lot of what was on, the app stores that people were trying to sell as apps, and why didn't they work? why didn't people pay $6 or $5 for the app? It wasn't the cost of the app. It's that you didn't actually know what the value was and what you were getting. And so I think it unlocks a lot of those things, and sort of I just want to say like the no code tools, the indie hackers of the world, I see as the first wedge for all these productivity tools that add value to people's lives.
So it's almost more of a market creation story rather than altering market structures that already exist.
I'd say both. It's a sequencing thing. It's starting with, I think, more technically proficient people, given the state of where things are, and then moving your way up to showcase it in other experiences. But I see this impacting, information sites, journalism. Think of like reviews and content. I always lean on, consumer reports and like how-to guides and what's the best X as an example of, you rarely can trust anything you're reading online in terms of advice because all the incentives are misaligned. It's about how do I get as many views on the site and clicks on the affiliate button, not about the quality of the experience. And so you can effectively rewire that by having a new model. People start going to their trusted sources, contributing a little bit, but it's still going to be way more than ads. And that'll create a sharing model of, oh, these are actually good.
So what can we expect from MASH? I mean, when are you looking to launch this? And then B, how should people engage and follow you and get involved?
Sure. So depending on when this is released, we should have something live as I call it an MVB. So it's a minimum viable beta. It shows some of the power of the experience directly in a few demo apps that you'll be able to try out. And, we want to show the power of it for those, mini apps and tools for that community before we expand out from there. As a consumer, you can try it. And if you're someone who's building something or has content and experiences and tools that you want to talk about monetizing a different way, you can go to getmash.com and reach out to me. I'm on Twitter. I don't even know my handle, actually.
We'll link it.
You can see how many followers I have. I think it's 300. Jared NXX, JAREDNXX. But yeah, and just, let us know what you care about, because, the goal is to help enable quality content and experiences online that are abundant, accessible, and also discoverable.
Well, for the sake of the entire internet, I hope you succeed. Jared, thank you. You acquitted yourself very well for a first podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much, Nick. I'm scared to listen to it. I might just have to have some friends make fun of me for probably a few things I said.